It's another effing Monday. It's the last one in June, actually. You're listening to live radio here on UCY.TV, Boiler Room Radio with me, your host with the big mouth, Jim Funke. And the guy over there in Virginia sitting in the easy chair, his name's Lance Musser. And he's pretty quiet sometimes, but he can get a little riled up from time to time, too. How's it going over there, Lance?
I don't have my easy chair. I'm still out at Mom and Dad's house dog watching.
Oh, shit.
So
you didn't swipe an easy chair from the old man?
No, he's got a leather chair, but it's just a half-backed one. It's not a full easy chair like mine,
Right.
But I got the view. I'm looking out the view.
Had
a great weekend.
Out over water.
Hey, so everybody else had a great weekend.
Yeah, before we jump into your Smoke'em's Market Minute, man, hey, tell me what was going on there today with Air Force One burning up a bunch of jet fuel and all these strange fighter jets that you saw cruising around over your head today.
Well, yeah, and that's pretty typical. Air Force One, and I can't tell if you broke up on me a little bit, so let me know if I do. But
okay.
Air Force One does touch and goes here once a week, once every other week.
Pilots' hours up or whatever.
They fly right over. They fly down from Andrews Air Force Base. We're a pretty small regional airport, not a whole lot of air traffic. But if you sit in the Sam's Club parking lot, which is at the end, which is where I always get my photos and stuff like that, down there at the end of the runway, you can sit right there, and I'll bet that thing isn't 500 feet over your head when it's cruising over. And then if you're at the other end in Yorktown, out by the bowling alley, when it takes off, it comes up right over you and does a hard bank back toward the north. But I sent you so that's nothing. Out of the ordinary. They do their touch and runs, but it's got cost a couple $100,000 in fuel.
Gosh, yeah, just burning that shit up, man.
Yeah, when they do, especially when they do those touch and goes. I mean, they do that thing full throttle, get it going. Man, it's sucking. It's like when the big V8, trucks.
Yeah. Yeah, they can.
The black helicopter that I sent you a picture of the other day was pretty weird. It was one of those, it was totally blacked out. I mean, black body, rotors, the treads.
Kind of like the ones that Blackwater flew.
Yeah. I mean, the tail was black, and I didn't see any lettering on it, and I was probably, a quarter mile away from it because I was going over to Sam's Club, actually, this past week.
Was there anybody hanging out the doors with automatic weapons pointing at you?
No doors were open. Didn't see. Man. I mean, you could see the doors were closed, but it hovered over the runway, about 50 feet off the ground for about 30 seconds, and then just shot off down the runway at top speed. I mean, it tilted, at like a 45-degree angle, and just shot down there. And then the other weird one was I was sitting outside today and saw a single engine, black and gray camouflaged, it had the two extra fuel tanks on the wings. Couldn't tell if it was armed or not, but, just no markings. I didn't see any numbers, or they could have been there, but, I had to look through some pretty powerful binoculars. I was looking at it. But the black and white camo kind of struck me as odd. I'm not sure why or where or who has black and white camo on their planes. Single engine plane, because we have very few single engine planes that we use.
No, the Skyhawk, but it's been decommissioned since the late 80s is a single engine. F-16 Eagle is a single engine, and it's still in use today. But
it is, but it wasn't an
F-16. It's being phased out. Right.
Yeah,
I mean, single engine aircraft, you can pretty much pick them out.
Yep.
Because there's very few of them, unless it's a foreign jobby. I mean, like I said, it could have been a tornado or...
Yeah, it was foreign. It could have been a tornado very easily, but it was foreign. There's no doubt about it.
It wasn't a Harrier. Harrier's got a single engine.
Nope. No, and I would have known a Harrier.
Yeah,
because
they're pretty distinctive body frame.
They are.
So a British Tornado, RAF Tornado, that's about the only other single engine I can think of that's still in use today, other than the F-16, unless it's Chinese or I don't know.
Tornadoes are big planes. I mean, they're just big planes,
and they've got the really serious Delta triangle wing. I mean, they're pretty easy to pick out of the sky too. So I don't know what you saw.
I don't think this one was one of those.
I pulled the picture up as close as I could. I couldn't really make it out though.
Yeah,
the helicopter I could see pretty well. But.
Yeah, it was interesting. interesting times we're in, that's for sure.
Yeah. Get a better camera. Go get some better shots. Let's make a video.
Yeah, as soon as they come back from the cruise, the European cruise, I'll get my camera back. So
right on.
My daughter's got it.
And speaking of cruising around Europe, let's talk about the foreign investors that are raping this country.
Well, I got a lot of stuff on that.
Market Minute.
There's my reverb. But got a couple things on gold. The first one that struck me is I think I got this story over the weekend or after the show Friday night.
Mm-hmm.
California governor grants Bitcoin legal money status.
I saw that.
Yeah. The 39th governor of California has officially signed Assembly Bill 129, the measure that sought to grant Bitcoin and other digital currencies legal money status into law, Reuters reports. The news comes just weeks after the approval of the final amended version of the bill earlier this month, though key votes in both the California Assembly and the Senate. Though digital currencies were not targeted for violation of the law, such rules could have been used to stem the technology's growth in an area that is home to 40% of all Bitcoin jobs in the United States. I did not know that fact.
In California.
In California, I did not know that fact.
That must be where all the server farms are that are mining these things in. I know some people got them private, sitting at their home, like in their bedroom or whatever. They just got it sitting on the desk mining up Bitcoin. But that's making me think that that's where most everybody's at doing it.
Well, this is interesting, too. However, noted by Roger Dickinson, the California Assembly member who introduced the bill, it does not regulate Bitcoin in California. That's a matter that will be left up to other authorities. So maybe they can create another government job to regulate that.
Oh.
We're trying to say...
I'm sure somebody else needs to go to work for the government.
He said, we're trying to say that to the extent that alternate currencies are developed and in use, we will consider that to be legally acceptable activity in California.
Mm-hmm.
And with AB 129 now law, California Bitcoin enthusiasts will need to wait for a forthcoming decision from the California Department of Business Oversight, which issued a warning this past April on all digital currencies. So,
warning.
They sent out
Danger,
a warning.
Will Robinson.
Yeah, and then they still, went ahead and went around even after they issued a warning on it.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's kind of like Goldman Sachs issuing a warning for everybody to dump their gold because the price is getting ready to crash, and then they turn around and buy everybody's gold.
And then they buy everybody's gold. Yep, exactly. Rehash a conversation we talked about off-air Friday about had a conversation with gold.
Yes.
And about the reserves in Fort Knox.
Yes, and how there's none there, and your dad doesn't believe it.
Well, he's not the only one. There's a lot of people that don't believe it. He's government, issued for the last 25 or 50 years. He joined at 18, did 25 years active duty, and getting ready to retire as 20 civil service. So he's, been on the government's dime his whole life. So he basically. Agrees with everything that the government does, never questions it or anything else, just because he's a
company yes man.
Yep, he's a G-man. So we were having a conversation about gold, and I said just flat out, I don't think there's any gold in Fort Knox. I mean, I talked to him about Germany wanting their gold back.
They can't have it until 2020.
And he was like, oh, I don't believe that. I don't believe that, that's crazy. Where did you hear that? And I said, well, there's plenty of people that are saying it. He goes,
City of London?
So he said, well, I say that there's more gold in Fort Knox than all in the rest of the world, and that's why we don't want to let anybody audit it, because we really don't want them to know our real strength.
Mr. Musser, why did the United States government disband the 1st Armored Division that was supposed to protect that gold then?
Well, I kind of ended the conversation at that point because it's just he'll make up something in his mind and trying to stay positive. I can't fault anybody for that, Right. So I'd love it if we were all wrong. I'd love it if King World News was wrong. I'd love it if Manarino was wrong. All these pundits, I wish they were all wrong, but I don't think they're going to be. So there's been a lot of gold stories in the news lately. A lot of gold stories. Paul Craig Roberts, who was on King World News for an interview, and Paul Craig Roberts was the inventor of Reaganomics. He was worked for the Treasury back in the Reagan era. So when they say to former Treasury official, he wasn't just a clerk that worked for the Treasury somewhere and they can call him an official. He was pretty high up in this. He told King World News the other day that the entire United States gold hoard, including gold supposedly held at the Fed for other countries, is now gone. And I sent this article to my dad, see if he'll read it. This is very bad news for Germany and other countries which have trusted the Feds to safely store their gold. Below is what Dr. Roberts had to say in this interview. The King asked him, I know you've seen the report on Bloomberg about Germany, all of a sudden supposedly being happy about storing their gold at the New York Fed. It seems to be a propaganda piece. What was your take when you saw that? And we even mentioned that last week. You remember we mentioned the story of Germany came out and said, oh, we're okay with it. And he nails it. Clearly, what that means is the United States doesn't have the gold and cannot deliver it and has forced Germany to come to terms with that and to stop asking for it since it can't be delivered. And so they, the U.S., have told their puppet state, Germany, to shut up and come up with a different statement that they are content to leave their gold with the Fed. Perhaps they had to bribe them or give them other advantage, but essentially they have stopped any German agitation for the return of their gold because it can't be returned.
Except for people,
that's pretty well put.
The people over there are still pissed off.
They are.
The government, Merkel tucked her tail between her legs and said, okay, I'll quit bitching. But
right.
The people still want their gold back.
Well, they're not going to get it. And
right.
The governments, both of them, have realized that. So what are the implications of that for other countries that have gold stored at the Fed? Because it's outrageous that they're not returning Germany's gold.
We'll just give you guys all a bunch of brand new digital zeros.
On the computer?
Right. So shut up about the gold.
The implications are nobody will get it back. People in the gold markets have long suspected that the Fed used up all the U.S. gold trying to suppress the price of gold over the years. And then they ran out of U.S. gold. Then they started using all the gold left with the Federal Reserve on trust. So they, the Fed, used German gold. I suspect that is true because we've seen in recent years, especially since gold peaked at roughly $1,900 an ounce in 2011, we have seen more and more reliance on dumping huge amounts of naked gold shorts on the COMEX during hours in which there is no trading in order to knock the gold price down and suppress it. So they protect the dollar from quantitative easing by shorting the paper gold market, the futures. If they still had stocks of gold that they could lease to bullion dealers to sell on the market, they would still be using that technique too.
Mm-hmm.
So I assume all the gold stocks ran out sometime in 2011 because since that time they are mainly controlling the gold price with naked shorts during the market period when trading is light or non-existent. So I think it's a safe conclusion that the supply of gold bullion available to U.S. authorities is almost non-existent. Keeping in mind, this was a guy that used to work for the Treasury, 25-something years ago during the Reagan era.
Yep. When they were selling the gold off to Saudi Arabia and everybody else.
Yep, exactly. At some point, Chris Powell, who was another guy that was on there, at some point countries are going to ask for delivery, and the squeeze is going to be infinitely worse than it was in 1968 and 71 because of all this imaginary paper gold which is out there that can't possibly be delivered. The central banks realize that there are going to be a bullion bank catastrophes, that the squeeze is going to take down certain banks that are naked short, and that Western central banks no longer have the metal to back up the bullion banks as they usually do or did.
What's the ratio of paper to physical now?
Oh, I don't even know. I mean, there's more paper.
Last time we talked about it was over 500 to 1.
Yeah.
So, and it's just keeps selling. I mean, everybody keeps buying little gold, little gold here, little gold there. All that physical comes back off the market when it's mined, but they keep selling the paper gold too. All these, back your IRA with gold, blah, 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 blah. Right, okay. Okay.
Well, it's just like if half of bank's customers try to walk in and withdraw all their money out, how long before, they don't have the money in? Yeah, how long before they run out of cash? They don't have it all in there.
Yeah.
So he's saying at that point, when everybody realizes the banks can't back this up, all hell will break loose in the gold market, and we'll see what has been described as the greatest short squeeze the world has ever seen. So, he thinks the worst part of the catastrophe will be the flight from paper currencies, and they won't be able to get into the gold because all the Chinese will have it all. He even said that. So it could be even worse. I just thought that was a timely article on gold. Right after I had been talking about it with my dad.
I'm looking up. Let's see. I'm trying to find out what the
ratio of it is.
Yeah.
I mean, it's no different than the fractional reserve banking, where they're going to loan out 90%.
COMEX, okay, here we go. This was, but this was a while back, man. This has been about 6 months ago. September 10, 2013, the COMEX had it at 55 to 1. 55 paper to 1, so I was wrong with the 500. I knew it had a 5 in it.
The right number, just one extra zero.
Yeah. So that was back in September of 2013. September, October, November, December, January, February. 9 months ago. It was 55 to 1. 55 pieces of paper for every piece of gold.
And there's still people out there encouraging buying paper gold.
Yeah. You see it all the time. When you're listening to radio ads or whatever.
All the time.
Yeah. Back your IRA with gold. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Okay. Go. Hey, man. Hey, knock yourself out, y'all.
That's about as worth like the golden ticket to get into Willy Wonka's chocolate factory.
Right.
It's going to be made out of that kind of gold.
Right.
Lastly, wealth inequality.
Before we get off the gold thing, I want to ask you one thing, and I don't know if you're going to have the answer to this or not, but we ought to try to find an answer to it. If anyone is still holding a gold certificate or a silver certificate, remember the ones they used to make back in the day?
Yep.
Are they still... can you still take them to the Fed and say, hey, here's my gold certificate, I get my ounce?
Get in line behind Germany is probably what they'll say.
Okay, just checking.
I'm guessing.
It's still a piece of paper.
Yeah, or, back it with some other kind of...
try to auction it off, because some dumbass will buy it.
Put it on eBay.
Right.
I wonder if you could go to eBay and see them. But yeah, you're right.
Anyhow, okay, back to your next story. Sorry.
Yeah, and this is just the lastly. It's a short little one. The middle class is being slaughtered, and it's by the design of the banking elite.
Mm-hmm.
University of Michigan, and this is very short, University of Michigan researchers have released a study stating that the disparity between the wealthiest Americans and the rest of the country has grown because of the Great Recession and the slow recovery. So they're already calling it the Great Recession from 2008. Certain people are. According to the study, the top 5% of Americans average 24 times as much wealth as the wealth of the median American family in 2013.
24 times.
Warren Buffett.
Yeah.
He rejects the idea that the
U.S. stock...
Yeah, right. He rejects the idea that the U.S. stock market is rigged. He contends that the market's sheer size gives him comfort. It's pretty hard to rig $20 trillion plus dollars.
Really?
Now let's ask the Fed how hard it is
to rig anything.
To rig, a couple $1 trillion. Come on now, really? So he's just saying that because he makes money when people buy his stocks and,
Berkshire Hathaway
stuff.
Warren Buffett. The only devil I know that can hold an ice cream cone and not have it melt profusely all over his hand.
Mm-hmm. Briefly, I'm going to mention mortgages for a second because that's what I'm still doing right now.
Okay.
Did you know that there are places, a couple of them, 39 states have if you don't make your payments on it, the bank's going to send you a note that says hey, catch up. And if you don't, then they're going to send you to foreclosure. That's common knowledge. Everybody knows that.
Yep.
in only 39 states,
notice of default,
you are responsible for anything, that's left over after the sale. They can collect from you. They can do all this other stuff from you. So that means that 11 states and most Canadian provinces, there's only 2 Canadian provinces where there's a non-recourse, if you will, mortgage. Canada apparently started it. Saskatchewan, in that area, if you default on your mortgage, you can mail them your keys and
leave.
And leave and be done with it.
Like a hotel room. Just leave them on the desk, lock up when you leave.
Like a rental car, yeah, exactly like a hotel room.
Right.
You can leave. It's a non-recourse mortgage. And if it didn't have any insurance on it, the bank is screwed 100%. But
that's the way it should be, man. They take the risk, right? There should always be risk involved with doing business. That's part of doing business. But anyway.
Well, I mean, the risk really comes in when you're talking about low interest rates, so the bank's not making much money in interest rates, an extremely low down payment was required to buy the home. Zero or extremely low. And then what if there's just a bump in the market and these people wake up and they realize, man, what am I paying? What am I paying for this condo for when I owe 20, 30, 40 grand, 50 grand more on it? There are places in, I think it was New Mexico, 70% Nevada, 70% of, the equity in certain homes in certain neighborhoods that they build up went away.
Right.
Why would you stay there? You would stay there the next 30 years, 25 years before you'd have any equity in your home.
I mean, if it's a hometown kind of dude and he wants to stay in his hometown, I can see certain people taking that lump, just because they want to stay where they're at. But if you're looking at your home as an investment, which it is one of the largest ones you'll ever make in your life, next to your car, and I can't believe that people pay the money they do for their cars and treat them the way they do. That's just ridiculous.
A depreciating asset, and they spend that much money on it.
Right. When you drive it off the lot, if you buy a brand new one, when you drive it off the lot, as soon as you hit the street, it's worth a third less than you just paid for it.
I have a true story. I sold cars. Well, I was F&I manager, but I sold cars for a little bit. Guy sold a car, customer, brand new car, pulled off the lot, got T-boned pulling out of the lot.
Right.
And his insurance company didn't cover it all because it was a used car and he had negative equity. Because he got it off the lot.
Brand new car.
Brand new car. Had like 8 miles on it, but it was a used car.
It hit the street.
It was a used car the moment that they signed the title work. Because once it's titled or you have title work, it's a used car.
Right, then you have a previous owner.
Right.
Right, there's a previous owner.
Yep, exactly. So this article about the mortgages has a caption and a picture, and it says, "Money is the root of all evil. Cleanse yourself here." And then it's sitting in a tip jar.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
That was a cute one.
Okay. So you got another story, or we go on to the videos?
That's all I got. I just saw that one and wanted to mention it because I didn't know that there were 11 states in the United States, and they didn't name them in the article because I guess they don't want you moving there.
Flooding
the place, but there's 11 states where you can mail back your keys and
no fault mortgage.
No fault, yeah, no recourse.
No recourse mortgage.
Yep.
If anybody's looking to buy a house, I would definitely check into that. I mean, that's worth a type into your Google bar, no doubt.
Yeah, or move up to Saskatchewan.
Mm-hmm. Saskatchewan.
That's right.
Anyhow, let's jump over here. It's Monday, everybody. So Scott has put out a hyper report today of 2 minutes and 21 seconds, and here it goes. And the freaking ads are driving me crazy on YouTube, man.
Because they won't let you pick your picture.
Yep.
Hello, this is Scott, and this is the Hyper Report. Here are the quotes for various items. First, borrow constitutional power. Senator Dick Durbin insists that if Congress does not follow Obama's lead on immigration, then Obama will simply borrow congressional power and act unilaterally on immigration.
What?
Since when does a dictator wannabe borrow constitutional power? It's good to be the king. Next, secured border? The U.S.-Mexico border is so secure that a Mexican military helicopter entered U.S. territory and fired on U.S. Border Patrol agents.
Where was our
Unlike
drones?
the economy, it is going to be a little hard for those in Washington to blame this on the weather. Mexico, still holding a U.S. Marine, has apologized for the border crossing. Or is that an act of war? Next, the gold is gone. According to Gerald Salente, the West is desperate to keep the Ponzi scheme that is the current financial system alive because the gold is now gone. Germany is not a third world nation, yet they cannot get their gold back until 2020? Central banks are all in the same Ponzi scheme and they know that the gold isn't there. So, as the paper trades temporarily hide the lack of gold, keep stacking after preparing because when this house of cards falls, all paper instruments will be trashed. Next, 10 facts on SWAT teams. Here are a few. 1. Only 7% of all SWAT deployments involve hostage, barricade, or active shooter scenarios. 2.
We talked about this last week.
Private homes 79% of the time. 2. Battering rams, boots, or explosives are used 65% of the time by SWAT teams. 4. Only 35% of the time is there a weapon found when a weapon was even suspected. 5. More than 100 families have their homes raided by SWAT teams every day.
Every day. 100 people in this country get their door kicked in by the police state every single day.
Next, war against tipping. Tips reward hard work and merit, and this is exactly the opposite of what labor union leaders want because it takes away their revenue. Labor leaders are describing tipping as sexist, racist, and other hot-button terms to stop people being rewarded for hard work. Perhaps labor leaders need to live in North Korea, and then they may, and that is a long shot, understand what freedom is about. Next, phony? According to Obama, the growing IRS scandal, VA scandal, Iraq, illegal immigration, and collapse in GDP are just a bunch of phony scandals. Seriously, does anything else have to be said about this clown except that he is demonstrating that he does not have character but is a character? Finally, please prepare now for the escalating economic and social unrest. Good day.
And the quote of the day is from George Packer. Character is destiny. And politicians usually get the scandals they deserve with the sense of inevitability about them.
That they do.
That they do. Okie dokie. Go over here and see what Manarino's got. I know he put one out today. I saw it on my feed.
14 minutes.
Is it really? Holy crap.
Yeah.
Long.
He said it's the most important video you'll ever see and why so many people are going to die.
And why so many people are going to die?
Yep.
Oh, well, that's obvious, man. And they're not going to be able to afford anything to keep themselves alive.
Right.
They're not going to be able to afford food, fuel, utilities. Like look at what's happening in Detroit. These people are just innocently living there, and the water company decides to raise the rates by a third, and half of them can't pay it, so they go around and shut their water off.
I will say this, though, and the rebuttal from the Detroit Water Company was a pretty good one. You know, we try working with these people. You try working with them. When you shut it off, they're in your office. They're in the office within 3 hours with full payment.
That's true. Not in 100% of the cases, but
not 100%.
That is true in some.
It is.
In some side, yeah. So I'll give them that. Anyway, they live next to one of the biggest lakes on the planet. Think they can find water?
They all need life straws.
Hey everybody, it's me, Greg Monroe. Today is Monday, June 30th, 2014. Before we even get started, if I look a little under the weather, it's because I am. I woke up today with shaking chills and a fever of 101.5. I do not feel well. But I really want to
get long-winded for today. Not feeling well.
A lot of stuff going on here. We keep hearing from more and more Fed presidents, and I want to talk about that. Because we are now facing an issue, people, which I know if you follow this blog, is gargantuan, and it's going to affect every corner of the globe. We have a situation now where the world central banks, none more so than the United States Federal Reserve, is causing asset distortions and a misallocation of capital, the likes of which are staggering. And the issue of asset bubbles are everywhere. None more so than the debt bubble. And I've gone over this at length, people, so many times that please, I'm urging you to do a little research about this. It's not just a financial issue. Before I even get started, let me go over that just real quick. We have borrowed monies from the future to live a better now, inflating this bubble in debt. The bubble in debt globally
stolen money
is the greatest threat to humankind, bar none. Bar none. Greater than ISIS or Al-Qaeda and every other terrorist organization in the history of the world, because it's an issue about resources. Again, think about it. We've borrowed these resources from the future. We've borrowed to pay for them. When this debt bubble bursts, which it will, and how do we know that, people? Again, do a little research like I always urge you to do. Every single financial and economic bubble in history has burst before, and why? Because they rise above a level that can be sustained by any means. Right now, we understand what's going on here with the world central banks, ECB going negative at interest rates, the United States Federal Reserve claiming that they're tapering. There is no taper, using backdoor mechanisms to keep this propped up, to keep interest rates lower. Understand, the Federal Reserve cannot just say they're keeping interest rates lower. They have to get into the market and make that happen by buying bonds. So it's a lie of epic proportions. Understand that. Do a little research about this, people. So they continue to hyperinflate this bubble here in debt. It's, again, the greatest threat to humankind, because once that bubble bursts, once they cannot continue to hyperinflate it, resources that we've been pulling from the future will not be available. It's that simple. And people, mark my words, we are going to see a loss of life on a global scale that will be biblical. Biblical. In fact, I'm not a religious guy. Most of you out there who know me personally or from here know that. But this is going to be biblical. Let's start with this here. So we've heard this Thursday from Fed President Fisher talking about inflation and core CPI and how the Federal Reserve has got everything under control and they're hitting their inflation targets. We know these are all lies as well. We know this beyond any doubt, that the Federal Reserve is suppressing the truth because they can't allow people to understand that the true inflation is 4 to 5 times higher already than what they're saying.
Unemployment, too.
It's a bizarre mechanism. We also heard today from Fed President Summers on CNBC talking about how the Federal Reserve, and he in particular, is determined to stimulate demand. Think about that. They're determined to stimulate demand. How? By suppressing these interest rates, inflating asset bubbles, including the debt bubble, which is the greatest threat to humankind, bar none. He doesn't talk about how he wants to have people save or increase productivity. It was hell-bent on demand. Okay, so we have these two Fed presidents who are obviously have an agenda that they're pushing forward here, beyond any doubt. We also heard from John Williams today, another Fed president, and what did he say? He's talking about how the Fed is going to, him included, he's on this page, will keep interest rates low and suppress them artificially for some time. What does that mean? Understand, if we do not allow, if we
want to determine
fair market value, I was about to say, all the way to the end.
You know there's a problem here. And I've gone over this so many times. It's such an important concept to understand. The sole job, people, of not just the equity markets, but the debt market, the bond market, the currency market, commodities, everything, is to determine fair market value. It's their sole job. One job, that's it.
Okay. I think this is going to be one of those long-winded videos where he tries to explain himself out 100 times and shit he's already said. We got the gist. I mean, you hear what the Fed is saying and the lies that they're propagating. But before we roll on with the rest of the show, I want to tackle something with you, Lance. Mm-hmm. Last week, I was confronted by a listener that is, I don't know, I guess irritated would be the word to use, about us doing the market stuff that we do on the show for the first half hour or so. Said it's boring, said that probably nobody out there listening wants to hear any of this poo, and that we could spend our time talking about better things. I tried to explain to him that the market affects everybody, whether or not you work on Wall Street or trade or whatever. It still affects you in your daily life because they make the tick tock. So absolutely. If you could, from your professional perspective, go into why it does affect Joey Bag of Donuts and how drastically it affects Joey Bag of Donuts.
Well, I mean, again, we talk about it every week because without money, everything's going to stop. And without the Fed printing the money, like I said before, you want to have riots, cut off the money. And we're just showing the ways that the money is going to be cut off. I've said it before, you want to have riots in the streets, cut off EBT. Cut off the spigot, of the financial markets. There's nothing else that affects us more than the financial markets, because if they die, we all die. I mean, you could talk about the swatification stories, you can talk about chemtrails, you can talk about fracking.
Everything leads to Wall Street.
Yeah, it all comes back to
the banks.
To the Rothschild-controlled banks that control everything and how they're screwing us. And, whether or not you believe it, like it, want to learn about it, it's a reality. The truth exists whether you believe it or not.
Exactly. And I'm not here to blow smoke up anybody's ass, or sunshine or any other thing that I can get my hands on. I'm here to tell you what I see, my truth as I see it. And I try to back it up with facts, because that's the only place you're going to find the truth, is in the facts. Not every fact is truth, but you'll find the truth in there. And if people out there, go ahead.
No, and I've always said, I may not have the whole story, but I'm sure that my story is a little bit closer to the truth than what the official story is. But I may not be 100% right, but I guarantee I'm more right than what the official story is. And I think every host on this network is, pretty much.
And if you people don't get why I'm doing what I'm doing, I apologize to you from the bottom of my heart. You should have learned more, because this does affect you daily. And I'm not going to change my show until the markets change.
Try going a day without spending any money. See how far you get.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's not. I mean, I can do that. I can go several days without spending.
But most people can't, because you have reserves there. But try. You don't think money or the financial part of it's important. Try going a week without spending any money. See what happens.
It's the butterfly effect.
Mm.
It is.
Yep.
I mean, little stuff affects everybody around the planet. So, anyway, if you don't like the Wall Street stuff, sorry. I guess you can mute the first half of the show or something. Anyway, let's roll on now. We got about 20 minutes left. And you got any other stories over there? Any after the market stories that you want to?
I read a great article, and it was in Playboy. Believe it or not, I'm out here. My dad has gotten Playboy subscriptions for my whole life. I mean, I remember getting them when he got them back then. So I was reading about the Colorado and the weed business, marijuana business.
Oh, cool.
And I was actually going to talk about that for a minute because, and I never thought about it, but the legalization of marijuana has created a lot of new businesses.
Oh,
and
yes.
What I mean by that is Armored, Blackwater, these private security firms. There's a lot of guys that are ex-military that have been in Iraq, Afghanistan, Qatar, you name it. They're ex-police officers, and they form these companies, and they're swatificated. We're going to use
that's
that
a
word.
Very great segue into the story that I got following this.
Well, this is big business, because if you think about it, at the end of the day, who's going to pull up to your business and take your cash to the bank for you? Brinks, Wells Fargo, Guardian. There are companies that are going to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Who's going to go pick up your 100 pounds of weed and pay cash for it from the guy that you got to get it from, and then transport it to your store? Well,
no questions asked.
This is big business now.
Mm-hmm.
And these guys, I was reading, the 3-man company. They're all ex-military, special forces, everything else. And they were like, well, we've already got the training. Where else can I apply all this training that I've done my whole life in the civilian world? Hey, I know. Let's be weed delivery people. So they got armored vans. They pick up, $25,000, $50,000 cash from the dispensary. and then go drive to the place and pick it up. Because think about it, somebody's going to knock off one of those cars one time to get all that weed. Or they're going to try, they're going to try for it. So big business. I mean, they're making money hand over fist on the legalization of weed. And, they said it hit them the first time when they were handed $25,000 cash to go pick up, a couple 100 pounds of weed.
Nice.
I thought it was pretty interesting. I was like, yeah, it does make sense, because Brinks isn't going to go deliver your weed for you. They may pick your money up at the end of the day, but they're not delivering your weed.
What's the plate read on the van? Pot shop?
The pot shop. But, I mean, these guys, they look like they're...
What color's the van?
In
Hunter
war.
green?
White. No, it's white, plain white van. The three guys, they look like Border Patrol agents. Kevlar, the vests.
Dope delivery.
M16s.
Stay back 50 feet.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they were, fully armored van, if you will.
Right. Yeah,
but there's more and more people. Yeah, there's a dozen of these companies starting up all the time. And as more states will, hopefully pass the same laws, it's opening up big business for delivery, transport people.
Very cool, man.
I thought so. And Playboy had it. So,
hoorah, gentlemen. Do your duty. Okay, that actually leads into the story that I'm getting ready to spew. And it'll probably take the last 15 minutes of the show, so because I'm pretty sure we're going to discuss some stuff about this. But I caught this headline today at RT. Blackwater Iraqi chief threatened to kill U.S. government inspector. And this was quite a while back, but this is just now coming to light because the lawsuits are just now coming to light, I guess. I dive in. A senior official at the notorious private security company Blackwater allegedly threatened to kill a government investigator probing the firm's Iraqi operation. The U.S. Embassy sided with him and forced the inspector to cut the visit short. The shocking insight into the relations between the U.S. State Department and a company hired to protect government employees in Iraq was reported by the New York Times on Sunday. The newspaper cites documents which were turned over to plaintiffs in a lawsuit against Blackwater, including a memo describing the incident submitted by the investigator Jean C. Richter to his superiors in Washington. Diplomatic Security Special Agent Richter was part of the two-man team, together with State Department management analyst Donald Thomas, Jr., that arrived in Baghdad on August 1st, 2007, to inspect Blackwater operations in the country. The company was awarded a $1 billion with a B dollar contract to provide security for the State Department and CIA in Iraq. According to documents, the investigators found numerous violations, including changing of security details without the State Department's approval, reducing the number of guard details, and storing of automatic weapons and ammunition in Blackwater employees' private rooms. There were also discipline problems with guards having parties with heavy drinking and female visitors, including one episode, listen to this, in which an armored Blackwater car was requisitioned by 4 drunk employees who drove to a private party and crashed the $180,000 vehicle into a concrete wall. As the probe continued, apparently it irritated some people in power in Iraq. On August 20th, Richter was summoned by the embassy's regional security officer, Bob Haney, who said he had received a call asking him to document Richter's inappropriate behavior. The investigator contacted Washington and was instructed to take his partner and to all remaining meetings. The next day, Richter and Thomas met Daniel Carroll, Blackwater's project manager in Iraq, to discuss a complaint over food quality and sanitary conditions at a cafeteria in Blackwater's compound. Carroll said Richter could not tell him what to do in his cafeteria and went on to threaten him. The Blackwater chief said he could kill me at that very moment, and no one would or could do anything about it as we were in Iraq. Richter recounted in the memo, "I took Mr. Carroll's threat seriously. We were in a combat zone where things can happen quite unexpectedly, especially when issues involve potentially negative impacts on a lucrative security contract." Thomas corroborated Richter's account of the events in a separate statement, saying that Carroll's comments were unprofessional and threatening in nature. He added that the investigators were told by people in Baghdad to be very careful, considering that their review could jeopardize Blackwater's operations there. Richter said the company officials showed little respect either to State Department officials like himself or to FBI agents present in Iraq. To me, it was immediately apparent that the Blackwater contractors believed they were the de facto authority and acted accordingly, in an alarming manner. The memo said Blackwater contractors saw themselves as above the law and actually believed they ran the place. These people make me want to vomit. He said he was shocked when U.S. Embassy in Baghdad sided with Carroll and ordered the two investigators to leave Iraq immediately. An August 23rd email, Ricardo Colon, the acting regional security officer at the embassy, told Richter that their mission had become unsustainably disruptive to day-to-day operations and created an unnecessarily hostile environment for a number of contract personnel. The next day, the inspectors cut short their probe and left Baghdad. The management structure in place to manage and monitor our contracts in Iraq have become subservient to the contractors themselves, Richter stated in the memo. The events happened just weeks before the Blackwater guards killed 17 civilians, including a 9-year-old boy in Baghdad's Nasur Square on September 16th, 2007. The incident sparked outrage with American presence in Iraq among the local population. The U.S. is currently trying to prosecute 4 of the 5 guards involved in the incident after the first failed attempt to do so in 2009. Blackwater was founded by former Navy SEAL Eric Prince and grew to a private security giant with billions worth of contracts from the U.S. government. After a series of scandals marred the company name, Prince sold it. Blackwater was renamed 3 additional times, eventually merging with its competitor, Triple Canopy, to form what is now called Constellus Holdings. So look for that name now to pop up in the news since we're going back into Iraq. Constellus Holdings. I'll spell that for everybody. Constellis. Constellus Holdings is now Blackwater. That's the end of that story. I'm going to go ahead and drop that into chat so everybody can review it if they feel the need. Comments, Mr. Musser? I'm sure you caught that video on YouTube of them rolling through Baghdad, just waylaying civilians. They ran over, actually. They flat ran over one lady in their Humvee during that videotaping, and they were just banging away with those M16s, man. And I think there was a guy on top of one of them with not a Ma Deuce, but at least a 60 caliber. It was a pretty big belt-fed rock and roller, you know. And they were just whacking away, man. They killed 17 people that day, including a 9-year-old boy.
And, yeah, I mean, that's pales in comparison to how many our military has done. But I do remember that being a sticking point of the military and these private contractors being there, is that, you know, they would not be held responsible for any crimes against humanity or anything like that. Mm-hmm. And what's Malachi? What's the... Maliki? Yeah, is he Iraq?
Nuri al-Maliki.
Yeah. Yeah, and
no, he was Afghanistan.
Afghanistan.
Yeah,
but both of them. I mean, they wanted to.
Maliki
for these
is the one in Iraq.
Right.
He's the one they're trying to get out now because he's the puppet that they put in after they killed
exactly.
Saddam.
That's why ISIS is there for, which right. I think they've just shortened their name or something. But I mean, these guys, the only reason they were there is because they were immune from prosecution because they said, I remember this.
They were making $250,000 cash. I mean, tax free. For a year.
Yeah, that was the other thing I was going to say. You know, you say that they're, you know, living it up, going to parties, requisitioning this. They own the place. Well, I mean, you got all these guys walking around making 6 figures.
With automatic weapons.
With automatic weapons and never made this kind of money before. I thought about joining them at one time, right after 9/11.
I'm embarrassed to say this, but I actually sent a resume to Halliburton to go over there and drive fuel trucks.
Yeah.
Because I had 2 different qualifications, but I was not selected, thank God.
Yeah, no kidding, because you probably would have gone. I mean, I would have gone. I mean,
absolutely, man. That was $180,000.
I was going to say.
Just to drive a fuel truck, and it was only a 6-month gig.
Yep.
You go over there for 6 months, come back home with $180K cash in your pocket, tax free.
Hopefully you came back home.
Well, that's that. That was the push.
That was when it was real dangerous too. I don't know what it is now over there, but
I'm pretty sure it's pretty dangerous.
I thought they had changed their name prior to it. It was Blackwater, and then I thought they changed their name already
to XI.
Yeah, okay. I knew they had changed it.
It's been sold about 3 different times, actually. And now I guess they just merged it with this other company.
I don't know about
Triple
sold.
Canopy.
I don't know about sold, but yeah, they...
I'm sure the same people were still working there, but the cat, Eric Prince, the guy that started it, he's no longer... he doesn't carry a weapon anymore. That guy's got bank.
Dick Cheney has made over $1 billion, from what I understand, on this whole thing through Halliburton.
Yeah, over the 12 years or whatever that they've been, yeah. Because they rebuilt the oil fields that we exploded. Yeah.
Let's bomb everything and then
we can rebuild it and make more money.
Yeah.
Scumbags.
They are. They were pretty brutal. I remember seeing all the stories. In fact, they were some of the first ones that I remember coming out of the brutality more before you started hearing about the military brutality. You still had Abu Ghraib prison, but that was a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember Blackwater was the ones that were out of control.
Yeah, because they were dropping. There was guys that were releasing YouTube videos of just being over there,
Mm-hmm.
And people were getting them, and they were like, "Holy crap, these guys are just killing anybody willy-nilly, man!" And they started going viral, and then they started catching a lot of flack over it.
You got to think about it. You're an E3, E4 over there in the military. You're making $36,000 to $38,000 a year, doing the same thing, but with more rules and restrictions than them guys over there in civilian gear that are making $150,000
or two.
Why wouldn't you want to go do that if you were?
Yeah, pull your tour and get out and go sign up, man.
Of course, they had that stop thing where they weren't letting anybody retire for a long time.
Yeah. You know what really sucks? Blackwater had an absolutely kick-ass logo.
Yeah.
They did. The bear paw with the Blackwater in the middle of it. That was a really, really cool effing logo, and they just ruined it. They could have been a really cool company.
I don't think that was their intention.
No, but and I really wouldn't want. As far as private security, though, those guys make some serious bank. I wouldn't have worked for the CIA or the And what was the FBI over in Iraq?
Yeah, the CIA I can understand because
they're foreign. They're supposed to. They're not allowed to work in the United States. But the FBI is just the opposite. They're only supposed to work in the United States unless they're tracking a suspect. So I don't know, but I just caught that too. That they were all there
suspects
in Moss. Well, yeah, but the FBI had like 100 people over there. Why? Were they investigating the military or something? I don't know.
There's a lot of questions out there to be answered. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to talk.
No, because they don't want to wind up with another hole in their head that they don't need. Anything before we go, man? You got anything else sitting on your...
I saw the best meme the other day. It was a picture of a baby. Oh, and congratulations to Chuck.
Oh, yeah. Chuck Ocelli. I got to drop this, man.
Drop that, please.
Yeah, because you let everything go on the web today. I was kind of holding my tongue. But Frankie was born last night or early this morning. I can't remember which, but I heard my phone ding. 7 pounds, 6.5 ounces, perfectly healthy. Kim came through it just like a trooper. I'm not going to go into any of the medical details that he went into with me. That's up to him to discuss all that stoof. But, yeah, congratulations, you guys. You're brand new parents, and you're very old. So get a lot of sleep.
and it reminded me of that because I saw a good meme today. It was a picture of a newborn baby, just like that, holding a sign that said, "When I grow up, I'm going to prove to my parents 9/11 was an inside job," or something like that.
Very good, man. That's a cool
I thought so. Yeah.
Oh man. But yeah, I couldn't. A buddy of mine, actually, before I moved down here, actually almost a year before I moved down here. Went to school with the guy, Richie. You know I'm talking about you, so I'm going to go ahead and say your name. He had a kid at 44, at 45 almost, and I was like, are you fucking crazy? He's like, everything happens for a reason. Everything happens for a reason. And when she came into his life, man, I'll tell you what, she turned him around 180 degrees. He is a completely different human being. He looks at the world through a different set of eyeballs now. And she's really changed him in a positive way. So it was meant to happen.
Kids do that. Kids do that.
It's something I never had the opportunity. Well, I had the opportunity plenty of times, but it's something that never happened to me in my extensive lifetime. So at least not that I know.
Then, if I had been as awake then as I was now, I'm not sure I would have had him. But I enjoy mine. Reason, though, man. I enjoy mine. They're good kids.
Yeah.
They're 21 and 18 and a half. Yeah, 18 and a half now. So, I can't call them kids. They don't call themselves kids anymore.
Nope, you can't. They get pissed off at you.
I'm not a kid. I'm graduating high school. I'm not a kid.
Young lady. Yes,
well, my daughter hates it when we're out, and I'll say, well, hold on, let me ask my daughter. She knows everything. Hold on a second.
Well, let me say one thing to your daughter. Kid, stop eating my bacon.
That's right.
So, there. I got that out.
She's in Greece now. She didn't hear you.
Bacon grease? Hey, TuneIn's worldwide, man. If she's got Wi-Fi and a smartphone, she can listen to this show.
Not over there.
Want to bet?
You got to have the European package. She didn't get it. We checked that.
Oh, no.
They went over.
Well, yeah, but just straight Wi-Fi, you ought to be able to connect to Wi-Fi.
Oh, yeah. If you're on the ship, yeah.
No, I bet that was a huge package. To try to get overseas minutes and whatnot.
Yeah, my mom went ahead and did it. 75 cents a text.
Holy shnikes.
Yeah. So she did it because she's sending pictures and stuff like that of, different places.
And you know what I bet it cost them to send it? Nothing.
Probably not.
The network's already up and established.
Exactly.
Okay, man. We're down to the last shake. What do you want to leave everybody with? How's your leg? Give us a quick 60 seconds.
Oh, man, I'll tell you what. Last Friday was the first day. No limp, no nothing. I mean, I'm still draining, having to replace my wick and stuff like that. But other than having to stick that in, no pain, good to go.
Good to go. Lance is back to 96%.
That's right.
All right, everybody, stay tuned. Turboville's next. You guys know the deal. Then there'll be a repeat of Prepper Chicks or Primer Time, and then we'll go to Anti-Media Radio with Mr. Nick Burnaby. I'm going to go send him the phones here in just a few. Love, peace, and happiness. Yeah, peace and love. That's what Lance likes to say. I like to end it with just regular peace.